first sheet that Kelsey has pulled up here is the food and beverage tax, and obviously that's going to be impacted pretty significantly from all the COVID-19 and stay-at-home order and all that kind of stuff. So unfortunately, we don't know yet those actual impacts. The receipts that folks submit, so say you do business in February, you actually submit those tax receipts to the state, and then the state remits those February receipts to the city in April. So so everything's 2 months behind. So we won't see March receipts until this month sometime, now in May. I have not seen any preliminary numbers yet. And then we're looking at April numbers next month. So it's kind of to be determined, but obviously we're anticipating there will be quite an impact. So the good news is that we didn't bond. There's no dedicated payments that we have to make out of the food and beverage tax. We can delay or push back some projects in order to kind of cope with the hopefully short-term delay in receipts. So that's probably what we'll do, and we'll just kind of keep an eye on it going forward. The food and beverage. Sorry, go ahead.
No, just keep going. It's good.
Okay.
Say, Heidi, if I can jump in just a second.
Sure.
One of the things too, just as a reminder, if you look at our 2019 numbers, we really had that high collection month in January of 19, and that was part of that audit. So it was kind of a catch up that we received. So it's kind of hard to compare January of 19 to January of 2020.
Correct. Yeah.
I have a question on our budget, though. Going forward for our summer months, we did have quite a few projects down. What were the total amounts that we were hoping to receive so we could do some of these projects that we're going to have to push back? Do we have that figure, Kelsey?
I'd have to pull that up, Ron, to see what we had budgeted. I think we were probably in that 470 range is what we were budgeting for every year. So again, I think we have adequate fund balance to fund the things that we're committed to. If you remember last year, we awarded the bid for the South Shore Park parking lot. We had the parking lot improvements at Veterans Memorial that were done this spring. We also have the trail going through the city park. I think we're good there, but we do have some larger future commitments with like the museum. I'd have to see where we sit for fund balance on that, but some of the other projects that we haven't awarded bid for, we're probably going to push those back.
Okay, thank you.
And it looks like we had budgeted 515 for 2020. That's going to be pretty aggressive for this year, but like Kelsey said, I think we can kind of fund the projects we're already committed to via fund balance and our receipts that we are going to receive, and then hopefully things will ramp back up here pretty soon. If you want to go to the next one, Kelsey, I don't know if I think local option sales tax, probably the next one. Yep, there it is. So again, that 2-month delay is really kind of killing us a little bit, but I think overall, we're gonna see less in local option sales tax. However, we do have some larger businesses that are still running. So like your Walmart, your Menards, Central Market, some of those businesses are probably our larger taxpayers anyway. And so I would imagine their receipts would still be coming in at a fairly rapid pace. And so I'm hoping our impacts will be not as severe as we kind of think they might be. And then the other thing that also helps us out is that we're already going past our projections. So for the last 3 months in 19, after the tax was enacted, we made 117,000 more than we thought we were going to via the tax. So we do have some wiggle room there, and so if receipts come in a little bit lower a few months here in 19, I think we're still going to be in good shape. So we'll continue to look at that and update you as, you know, more of those figures come in and we get more information. And then liquor store. So on the other end of the coin, we've got the store. Obviously, those sales have gone up quite significantly just because of the stay-at-home order and people not going out for their merriment. So it's looking like, so March was up about 37.5% in sales, and then also April was up about 32.6%. So looking pretty darn good in the liquor store fund. And if you guys have any questions on these as we go along, please just jump on in and ask them. The other things that I didn't provide to everyone, but that I did send out to Madeline this morning, I apologize, I can get these out to you all as well. So building permit revenues was I kind of wanted to look at everything that we have in the budget, in the general fund in particular, because those are, you know, that's where we have the most, I would say probably the most exposure in terms of having things not come in where we think they're going to. So one of the big things is building permit revenues and trying to look and see if we're kind of on par with where we were at in previous years. And from what I can tell, I mean, you know, it's always difficult building permit revenues because some people like have a large project that'll pop on 1 month and it'll kind of throw things off. But looking at things overall, January through April and then through May to date, we're not looking too bad. And, you know, even if you look back at 2016-17, January through April revenues, we're not, you know, we're kind of right in the middle of those 2 years. And you can see those 2 years ended up pretty favorably for us. So I think we still have the ability to reach our budget, depending on, you know, some larger projects that those do come in. That would certainly help, but I think we're still holding our own. And from what we've heard from the building officials is that they're still seeing quite a few permits rolling in. It's just that they haven't seen the large ones yet. So hopefully those will come in as well. But just wanted to kind of give you a snapshot of what we're looking at here on building permit revenues as one of the general fund areas. So then the rest of the general fund, I kind of just took our entire revenue budget and broke it down and kind of hid the columns and the rows where we had items that I didn't think we would have a whole lot of impact, and then left the rest on here. Did a little bit of a worst case scenario in looking at, you know, what if no one can rent the pavilion for this entire year? What would that look like? What if park rentals, you know, if people can't gather in the park, those types of things. Looked at worst case scenario and then probable scenario exposure to see what we're looking at in terms of how much lower our revenues might be. The biggest thing is obviously the pavilion rentals. So we plan on about $50,000 in those rentals. If we can open that up, I mean, that'll certainly help us get back to where we are budgeting. But if not, we can probably weather that storm as well. So looking at other areas, you know, I think the other big one is interest earnings, just because the market is kind of tanked. You know, last year the Fed had kind of wrapped up raising rates and now they've been lowering. And then when COVID hit, everything kind of fell through the floor. So that's kind of another area where I'll probably keep my eyes on that and just make sure that we're able to look at and still accomplish what we're trying to. The good news is last year, 2019 looks like it ended in a surplus of about 160,000. And so if we did add that to fund balance at the end of 2019. So if we do have some areas where, you know, revenues don't come in as we expected or something like that, then we can kind of tap into some of that fund balance from last year that we carried over. So that's kind of the good news. in terms of our exposure. Other items, trying to think here what else I had that kind of summarizes everything, I think. Public utilities. No, I'm sorry, Gabe. There's a dog outside. That's okay. Just stand. So public utilities, it seems like revenues are continuing to trickle in, and we aren't actually seeing as many delinquencies that we thought we might see right away. People are starting to come into their cabins and things like that. So we're getting a lot of water turn-ons and that type of thing. So far, public utilities doesn't seem to be affected really hard at this point, but again, we'll continue to monitor those as time goes on. So with that, I guess I'll accept any questions and try to answer any I can.
Heidi, did you say you were going to email all those pages out to all of us today yet?
Yeah, I can do that.
I'd like to have them before I talk to the radio tomorrow morning.
Absolutely. Yeah, I will do that right now.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I've got a question, Heidi. Last year, with the interest rates being so low right now, I know last year, Pam, we did a lot of rebonding and stuff. Do we have any other bondings that can be refinanced for lower interest right now, or did Pam pretty well get most of them last fall?
Yeah, I think Baker Tilly did an analysis, and it looked like there was maybe one potential refunding that Terry Heaton had alerted me to. So I think we'll look at that along with what we're doing for the public, the new police department. And so I know there was one, I think, that was on the radar, but it was pretty limited. So there's not a whole lot of opportunity for refundings at this point.
So right now we're pretty clean as far as getting down to the best rates we can at this point after last fall then.
Right.
I was just hoping.
Yep.
Does anybody have any further questions? Thanks, Heidi. That was very good.
Thank you.
I think I saw Jeff on here, so we'll go to item B. Detroit Mountain Recreation Area to give us a little overview of the rates that they're proposing for 2021. Good afternoon, Jeff.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I was having some issues with my computer and had to switch to my phone, so hopefully we're all set. Yeah, the price increases have been approved by the DMR. The proposed increases have been approved by the DMRA board as of our March meeting. We are proposing a $1 increase on our daily lift ticket rates for both adult and junior, and a $2 increase on our Twilight and Monday Madness pricing. $10 on our adult and junior passes, and then some small increases, $1 and $2, I believe, on our group, our non-school group rates. So those are just any groups over 10, which could be church groups, homeschool groups, really any non-student group. All told, the increases will add about $32,000 in increased revenue for us. Any questions? Any comments?
No, your end is June 30th. What's your financial year?
May to April. So our fiscal year begins May 1.
So how did the mountain end up last year with the rates you had? Are we in the black, or where are we at on it? Is $32,000 enough to keep our head out of water?
Yes. Yeah, we did well this past year, despite the early closure, the weekend of the 15th. So we ended actually very well. The year-end financial statement is not available. I've seen the preliminary draft of it, and it looks quite good. But we do have some significant increases with regard to our expenses. Primarily, payroll is our number one expense, and that continues to increase. I think, the combination of minimum wage increases as well as the additional tenure of some of our returning staff. I looked at our first year payroll compared to our most recent, and our payroll expense has gone up about 32%. And that's to be expected again with those minimum wage increases, the returning, the high number of returning employees, and then just the growth of the organization out here. When we started, we had one chalet and 200 acres of property, and now we've got 2 chalets, the main building and the tubing, plus an additional 150 acres with trails. So, just takes a little bit more labor to keep us going. Insurance continues to increase. Our average liability increases about 15% since we started. This year, we will see an 18% increase to $48 per $1,000 of revenue. So that's about a $16,000 increase in our budgeted liability insurance alone for this coming season will be $120,000. And utilities, of course, is up there at about $75,000 annually. So, we feel that, the proposed increases are still in line with our competition and with the market in general. And, that proposed increase, proposed as of pre-COVID, we're actually kind of reworking some of our budget. But we anticipate that revenue increase will help supplement some of those increased expenses, primarily insurance and labor.
So with what you're just telling me, with the insurance increases and labor increases, you feel that this increase of $32,000 is going to help with everything right now? Because I'm just wondering what happens if you happen to have a blooper of some kind. Do you have any type of a surplus funding to take care of an emergency of some kind?
Yeah, so with this budget that I've been working on with Stu and the executive committee, we're holding back some capital expenditures. Typically, we'd like to allocate about $100,000 for those needs. We're cutting that back to $40,000, and we were strong last year, and that'll certainly help carry us. And most recently we've started some conversations on now that these increases, proposed increases, were approved by the board. There's been some further developments with coronavirus and how that may impact our operation in the future, and the optics of an increase in light of the economy maybe is not such a good thing. But that there's still a lot of unknown, and that discussion is early, and no decisions have been made. But at this point, I guess I would look for approval of the increases, with the possibility that we may hold hold our pricing the same depending on what develops.
In your, you've got many departments out there. What are your two strongest departments and what are your weakest departments as far as revenues?
You know, certainly our lift tickets, you know, our walk-up daily lift tickets is our strongest revenue line. But, you know, we need to look at it in total. You know, the rental department, the food and beverage, the season pass, I mean, they all work in concert and help support each other. You know, the food and beverage, we continue to operate at a fairly high cost of goods on that, about 47%, which if you talk to most restaurants is probably a little bit lower than that, maybe as much as 10%. And that's largely due to, you know, our concession style operation where it's all heat and serve, prepared food with a higher cost of good. So, you know, just initially in discussions, if we need to operate without our food and beverage side because of gathering size restrictions or building capacities, you know, that'll certainly have a lesser effect on our revenue than, you know, just the straight loss of lift tickets, if that answers your question.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody from the committee have anything further they'd like to ask Jeff? Questions or explanations? If not, I'll be recommending that we approve these rates. At least that will be my stand unless I hear otherwise from any of you committee members.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, looks good. Thanks, Jeff.
Very good. Thank you.
You bet.
Would you like me to be present for the council meeting this evening?
Well, you're welcome to be there in case anybody from council has another question.
Very
So
good.
I would say never hurts to have a mention now and then.
Okay, I will attend.
So
And-
Jeff, I'll probably move this item up on the agenda if you're going to be tuning in, because I think we're going to have a fairly long meeting tonight. And so if you're planning on joining the meeting, then I'll move this item up on the agenda. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Jeff?
so you are gonna tune in?
Yes.
Okay, Jeff, thanks.
And a question from me, this is Madeline. Do you want to make a comment about the bike trails and where are you at as far as getting bike trails open? Cross country open, but what about the lift and the gravity flow trails?
Yeah, I certainly will. Are you asking me for this meeting or just for
Well,
later?
Yeah, later we could just make a mention so that people know whether or not they can come out and what's available out there.
Yeah,
If we have time, if we could do it now, I'd be interested in hearing about it.
Yeah, real quickly, we are open. The cross country pedal trails are open. We started selling season passes as of last week, I believe, and you know, we're doing really the response has been strong. I've seen a lot of new names come through. I think, you know, that the notion of outdoor recreation is more popular now than ever with the social distancing, so that certainly helps us. And we are on target to open Memorial Weekend for our lift service biking. So we've developed a whole protocol to, you know, maintain social distancing within the building. We will limit the number of people in the building and kind of have contingency plans if lines develop, and the ability to deliver bikes, rental bikes outside rather than having people go into the rental department. So yeah, we're pretty optimistic. This is all, of course, approved through the governor's orders and consistent with you know, how golf courses are operating. But I don't recall the exact governor order, but ski areas were specifically called out as being able to operate currently.
Do you see the bicycle business on the trails and so forth becoming a larger revenue stream for you? I know last year you said it was slow in coming, but do you see that revenue stream picking up with bicycles?
Yeah, I mean, you know, year to year comparison is as far as season pass sales is up this year so far. Like I said, I've seen a lot of new names come through, and you know, just the visual observation of the number of cars in the parking lot is high. You know, has been strong with the exception of this past weekend with the snow and cold weather. But you know, even today, you know, I can look out and see a couple cars out there. So the trails have been being used for sure so far this year, and I expect that only to continue.
And the city attorney can personally attest that the trails are in good shape. I went out there and inspected.
Excellent.
Say, how are you coming on this tree house or whatever it is? Is that, I know we had some funding issues. Did we finally get that worked out? I'm not sure where that's at right now.
Yeah, so the tree house was removed from the grant because we could not find a contractor that could build it, you know, to our liking within budget. So those funds were reallocated to the play area as well as additional bike trails. So the play area will be finished up mid-June. So that's nearing completion right now. And then the bike trail builders will be back June 1st, and we'll have everything wrapped up by mid-July. They received about a 2-week extension due to some problems with getting started with housing availability and things like that. So, but yeah, everything will be wrapped up by mid-July at the very latest.
No, who can use that playground area? Do you have to be a member, or can just anybody come on and use it, or how does that work?
Yeah, it is open to anybody. So the natural playground is open to anybody, and our discussions with the board, you know, up until this point, we are not charging for use of that like we do for the bike trails. So yeah, anybody can come out and use it once it's open.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. And I probably will call on you tonight just to give an update on the bike trails. That
Sure.
That you can kind of give a little speed about for this time and the summer. All right. Yep. Thanks, Jeff, and we'll talk to you tonight then.
Okay. Thank you all.
I see the rest of the agenda's consent unless you have something you want to bring up, Kelsey or Heidi.
You know, I think the only thing I was going to mention, Madeline, is, you know, there's been some communication with the American Legion campground. If you recall that 2-year agreement, the first 2-year term came to an end at the end of last year. Now the agreement has an automatic renewal provision in it. So
Mhm.
technically, there's nothing else that, there's no action needed because it just renews into another 2-year agreement. We had some questions of the financials and some questions regarding our agreed upon procedures that we asked the campground manager and Legion to respond to, and I guess they provide us with an answer. I still have to dig into that a little bit before we issue. There's a 20% profit sharing
Okay.
provision in the contract that we haven't paid out yet for 19. So that's probably the next step, is to pay out that profit sharing. And I don't know if there's going to be any other requests from the Legion to consider any other modifications to the agreement. Again, at this point, we are under agreement. It's part of that renewal, but if they want to discuss or renegotiate anything, that's something that's going to be by mutual agreement. But I guess at this point, there's no action item on it. We just are trying to finalize that profit sharing split for last year.
Okay.
Well,
I did read through that email, kind of the email exchange that you all had with the answers to some of those questions that we had.
but at our meeting we had a month or 2 months ago, part of the discussion was that they kind of continue doing things that you normally wouldn't do. And we talked about putting in some penalty clause that if they continue on this, that they're going to have to pay some kind of fine or something. It just seems like they keep doing things that aren't up to par, and it just continues. And I don't fully trust the camp manager. And I think that's part of it. And he thinks he can use our checkbook and all kinds of things. But I just think that we should have some penalty clauses in there to try to make this stuff so it doesn't happen. And I had another question with this, with COVID now. What happens if half those people don't come back this summer? Will those people still have to pay rent for having their camper in that campground, or how does that work?
I'll do my best to answer that, Ron. Per the governor's executive orders, the seasonal campers are allowed to return. They're considered long-term residents there, so they are allowed, and as of May 1st, they're allowed to return. So I'm not expecting, a drop in revenue from the seasonals. As you know, majority of that campground is seasonals, but the transient camping has not been permitted yet per the executive orders. So depending upon if and when those transient camping is going to be allowed, there is probably going to be some reduction in revenue there, but still that transient camping is a relatively, small is maybe not the right word, but in comparison to the seasonal rents, it's a small portion of the overall revenue.
No, and I understand that, but I'm saying for those seasonal campers, if people say, we just don't feel good about coming, will they get to keep their campers there, even though they're not going to be occupied rent free, or they're going to have to pay the rent regardless?
I don't know the answer because I haven't been asked that question. I don't know if it's come up yet where someone's asked for that yet. I mean, I tend to agree with you, Ron. If they're campers there, they're going to have to pay the lot rent.
I would hope so, but under the management show over there, I don't know what to think could happen on this deal. But if we can follow through on that and see anyway.
Well, I think when the question is asked, then we'll have to determine just where we stand. I agree. If the camper stays, then the rent needs to be paid.
Yeah, I think that's fairly clear under the management agreement, but I'll go back and take a look.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, Kelsey, for the good of the order?
That's about it.
Okay, then I would call this meeting adjourned, and we'll see you all at 5 o'clock. Same little screen at 5 o'clock.